Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Practical Pet Chat. Thanks for joining Lorin and I. Lorin, with one exception, and that is Practical Pet Chat, moderation is something that is really important for pet parents and the pets that they love. I see this really throughout, whether it's supplements, whether it's treating, whether it's even exercise. We just have this natural tendency and yeah, I don't know if it's social media, I don't know if it's just our own guilt sometimes, but we seem to overdo things. And when we pull back, we're quick to like, oh, I've overcorrected. But moderation and balance over time, so important.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of times people think, well, if this much is good, then this much more must be better.
Right.
And in fact, it isn't. It's I wish people would moderate what I consume, that I had somebody who would take away things that I thought were really, really yummy and say, no, you only get this much, not that much. Um, but we need to do that for animals because it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you've got a number of things. You and I were just talking about, whipped cream topping and pup cups and those kinds of things. And, it's about moderation and taking into account the size of the dog, the age of the dog, the limitations of that particular individual kid. It's not just dogs, it's any animals. But, you see a lot of, uh, people going overboard. And that can be going overboard with foodstuffs, going overboard with supplements, doing too many supplements, multiple supplements. How do you know it's working?
Right.
And then, we have the holidays coming up. So moderation is even more important right now because when you have big gatherings and lots of people around, and lots of things happening that are not the day-to-day normal for the animals in your household, you have to think about that. You have to think about the effect on them. It's not just consumptive moderation. It's noise and time of day and numbers of people and all of that has to be considered. Or you need to put that kid somewhere where they're chilling without
Sure.
being assaulted by all of that. But, it's not something that we humans we're not self-disciplined with things like that. And because we love our fur kids, we are like, oh, it's just a little bit. I used to go through this in my store all the time. And I can remember on more than a few occasions having conversations with people, weren't you just in here buying treats? Well, yeah. Okay, so don't you just have the one kid? Yeah. Okay, how many treats are we giving in a day? Well, I get them here. No, I understand that, but they're still treats. And they're not meant to take the place of food. And so I haven't seen Fluffy in a while. Can you bring Fluffy in so that I can check him out and make sure what I'm not saying is that we're in a healthy weight and there's not too many treats sticking on those ribs. Um, and it's an indicator of love for us, and we want to do the best things that we can. But really the best thing you can do is tough love. And the tough love is looking out for your kids and being the moderator that you wish you had.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We talk about the tough love part too. That extends to the family members, right? Because
Yes.
it's usually not just one person doing any one of these things that leads to the overindulgence. It is the fact that they're just, puppy dog eyes, work on everybody, not just one person. And so, from the standpoint of, okay, you're done. I don't see anything left in your hand. Now, let me move over to the next person with something in their hand, and so on and so forth. And I joke to the point where folks who have been over, for a gathering we're doing or a party, etc. I used to always be like, "Hey, we're so glad you came here. Welcome, come on in. By the way, the dog has been fed. Doesn't, no matter what she tells you, she is not short of anything other than feel free to give her an overabundance of belly rubs, because it is that whole like, oh my gosh, how cute, I'm going to hand off one. And then 17 people later, Bella's, looking like I got to tie a string to her and, float her down the parade route there. So, she definitely does not like that if you heard the groan. But that being said, I also like that you call out, hey, this happens in other things too, right? We have these sense, and we talk about this with nutrition and other things, balancing over time, but also, changing out things. When you're looking at, and I like you talked about the supplement side of things in particular, something I often look at and talk about. We have this habit of you're right, we give too many. So how do we know what's working, what isn't working? But number two, we have a tendency as pet parents to start something and never stop something.
Mhm.
And we worry that, oh my gosh, if I were to stop it, what's that going to do? And a lot of times that's really good for the pets. Cycling on, cycling off, something I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
And really also just looking at, depending on the seasons, what's going on. There are times when, hey, they need this more in their diet, or they need that more in their diet. Um, I love you. And I also, before we started this, we're talking about some of the things that we're seeing on social media. And it's like so funny because one social media person says this, and then 35 others are on it. Like, no, you should use this one. No, this one. No, this one. They're all the same. And so you get that herd mentality of, oh my gosh, everybody's talking about that. I better include that into, Fluffy's diet. And they don't talk about okay, you did that. The herb, the supplement, the vitamins, whatever it is, has done what it was supposed to do, has reset and got you to the balance and the stasis part. And you're just going to keep doing it. And then you tip the scale in the other way. And now you're hurting other things within the body system and the ecosystem within the body, not intentionally, but just because you didn't moderate and come back to, okay, I got back to where I wanted to.
A good example of that, then, and it's the simplest one, is probiotics.
Yeah.
First of all, there's billions of different probiotics out there, and they all address and do different things. But a probiotic can actually create a problem where there is no problem because they can be disruptive. And it's really hard. I've seen it, people just stare at me like that doesn't make sense. She's wrong. The probiotics are so good for you. We're inundated with that type of marketing, right?
Right.
They are if there's a need for them. But if there's no need or you reach fulfillment of the need and there's no longer a need, then maybe you lay off them for a while. And regardless, anytime you take herbs and supplements, you are supposed to have breaks. It doesn't matter what it is. The body needs to be able to reset and you need to be able to reevaluate. And you can't. And a lot of people go, well, I'm not seeing anything bad, so I know it's working. But you haven't stopped it. So you really don't know it's working. Why don't you stop it for a week or two and then see if there's a need for it? I mean, if you just want to spend the money, I get it, but at the same time, that's not in the best interest of your kid. And you have to have a true understanding of cause and effect and what your realistic outcome and expectations should be. And when you're there, stop.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you another even easier one since we're going to play the I've got the easier one game. Um, affection, affection, and that attention. Too much of that constant, over the top. It gets your pet into a state of like, I'm supposed to be around, and that energy back and forth goes from being good, healthy, love, concerned, all that to anxiety driven. Oh my God, they've been gone for 6 hours. They've never been gone for 6 hours. Not that they have a stopwatch, because then that would be really over the top in moderation. But I've seen that too, where I'm just like, wow, like that, what, your pet can't be, you can't be without your pet, and your pet can't be without you, because you've created this over dependency on I've got to be around. So to me, that quiet mind is a good mind, and you can quiet that with the exercise, the attention, the peacefulness, the calmness, or you can overdo it, and it's like I'll be back in 10 minutes. I'm gonna be back in 10 minutes. I'm gonna be back. I talk to Belle all the time when I'm leaving.
Me
I
too.
don't worry that she can't function when we're not there. And it's funny because I have a friend, and that's what sparked this story, who has their camera on when they're at work. And I just out of curiosity, how often are you looking at that camera? How often are you talking to her pets? And she goes, oh, at least 4 or 5 times an hour. And I'm like, it's interesting. Like, do they just sit in front of the camera these days? And she goes,
Does
"No,
her employer know that?
yeah, well, it's not all she's doing, but she's checking in regularly, right? But I said to her, I said, so, I mean, they're now all just waiting to hear from you throughout the hour. Yeah, that's why it's so important. I check in, and I'm just like, okay, if that works for you and your pets. But then when I'm around her pets, I'm just like, oh man, there's a higher level of anxiety because you're just not letting him ever be off that alert, you know, uh, turntable there of just like, she's going to check in, she's going to check in, she's going to check in, she hasn't checked in, so that overabundance, that moderation, there's so many elements of it as a pet parent. And I think the hardest part is just we don't hear from them. I'm good. I'm good. You take a break. I'm good. My stomach feels great. I'm good. My teeth look pearly white. I'm good. Or, hey, all this stuff is really upsetting my stomach. And if we just looked at nature and watched them sometimes, and I always go back to discussions you and I have had where they'll tell us, you go out, you see them taking specific, flowers and plants in your yard. There are times where they're doing that to calm their belly instead of whatever probiotic you're trying to, jam into them. So it's interesting.
Well, and
Moderation
maybe the
is a
moderation,
challenge.
to your point of what you were just talking about, maybe the moderation is that you're on the couch and the dog is a cushion or two down from you. Still there, still in the same room, still hanging out, but not actively touching, interacting, fondling, petting, rubbing, licking, any of that kind of stuff. You want to be sure that, everybody has their time to just go.
Yes, yes, and it's funny. My sister has a dog, and what makes me think about this is there are certain breeds too that are like that, and she's got a lab who has to. We call it the elbow check. It's just constantly. If you're not a hand on, Thomas, I'm calling you out. You got to check the elbow because there's something wrong with my elbow. You stop touching me, my elbow hurts again, and yet Sugar, Bella, they're very quick to, I love you, want to give you love. Now I'm going to go to my spot. Sugar was part Shiba, and I knew that was the Shiba in her, where she just never, she's like, I'll love you. You can cuddle all over me, but I'm going to go find my own space and just relax. And I think you and I talked about it before, where she would go in front of the TV looking at all of us in the room so she could still be connected to us, but she didn't have to be physically connected to us. And so, to your point, that giving the attention in moderation, it was a reward. It was seen as, okay, it doesn't have to be constant. I don't have to be anxiety about getting it or not getting it. And I think that's just one of the many examples of moderation. But the reason, we wanted to talk about this was because that's a tough thing for us as pet parents, because our natural inclination is, you're the greatest thing ever, and I want to show you that. And so how are you showing that, and making sure you're not overdoing it, whether it's the treats, whether it's I've even seen it with the folks that go on walks and hikes and all the rest of that stuff. It's like we got to get out and we got to do 10 mile Really? I'm pretty sure like your dog is not looking going, we were half a mile short today. Can we, yeah, let's get back on the trail and hit that hard.
My pedometer says
Yeah,
that we're short.
yeah, exactly. There is that tendency for us, especially with our pets, to want to take things to the extreme. You hit the pup cup thing because you and I were joking of like, you know, I shared with you. Bella really is not all that interested in the pup cup itself. She wants the acknowledgement from the people in the window. And I shared with you, it's like she gets right in her, the passenger side window. I roll the window down. She's, head out, and everybody comes, oh my God, so cute and all that. And the second they acknowledge her, she moves, gets down, moves over. She's got a little seatbelt so she can get to either one of the seats. She gets in the far seat now. She's like, okay, you're good. You get the Bella discount on this one. They'll take care of you. They can hand me a pup cup, and that's the other part of it, right? Pup cup used to be just like in a little lid. Here's a little taste of, some whipped
Mhm.
cream, etc. Now it's a cup.
It is. Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, that is not going to be healthy. And for those of you who don't understand moderation, a cup of that will teach you moderation if you give that right before bed, because you're either getting up and running to the outside with your dog, or you're cleaning it up in the morning, because that'll hit the system quickly. So and I joke about it, but I think that's where people do start to recognize, oh, I may have overdone it, is unfortunately when they see some
Right.
dramatic signs of, oh, yeah, we may have overdone this or we may have overdone that. I think you and I both get concerned when we talk about the unseen signs. What's going on, what's hitting the liver, what's hitting, your internal
Mhm.
body systems that don't present themselves outwardly in a manner that you adjust and go, ooh, okay, thanks. And so I think that's that big challenge here that we're just trying to get across to everybody is, everything in moderation. It doesn't have to be overloaded. It doesn't have to go on forever. The body system is this remarkable, machine that if we can get it close, it will get itself there.
Yeah,
And
it'll take over.
yeah, and I think all too often we buy into, for whatever reason, the hype, the trends, the social media, the websites.
The
My friend had
fix.
this.
The
Yeah,
fix.
that's a great way to put it. I'm going to do this and it's going to fix. Rarely is that the case. Rarely is that the case. So, especially if it's being overdone. So, moderation, moderation, moderation. The one thing you can overdo, the belly rubs. I've never seen I mean, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a pet out there that doesn't like the belly rubs, but I haven't met them yet. And then listening to Practical Pet Chat. So, tell us what you're doing about your moderation by reaching out to us on any of the social media channels, but also you can send us an email, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. If you've got a topic you want us to hit on, or if you're concerned, hey, you know what, I do a lot of this. Should I be doing all of that? We'll build it into one of our topics, and happy to share with everybody out there. And again, thank you all. We know you've got a lot going on in your worlds. Very easy to see these things happening and go, I've got to do this. Now, hopefully, after today, you're going, how long do I need to do this? How much do I need to do it? Ask that extra question. As always, Lauren, it is tremendous to be with you. Thanks for joining
And
Lauren and I on Practical Pet Chat.
thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.